Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Canada's Sportsbook.
SDP. The Steve Dangle Podcast. With your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
We're going to start today with a couple of more serious things. The Canadian Red Cross is looking for donations in the wake of Hurricane Fiona here in Canada. So the federal government's actually going to match every donation you make times 2. So if you make a $1 donation, it will be a $3 donation.
Whoa.
So SDPN is going to make a donation. We're just confirming how much. And we just wanted to go to redcross.ca if you can. And obviously we know that Hurricane Ian is hitting the United States as we speak right now. Tampa, Sarasota, Naples, all that whole area. And it's going to cross Florida, and it will still be a storm on the other side. So quite destructive, lots of storm surges. And obviously, if you're from the States and you're listening, and a significant portion of you who watch and listen are, we would encourage you to go to Red Cross or other relevant charities in the United States to donate. As well, tomorrow in Canada is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and this is where we take a step back and we listen and we learn from the Indigenous peoples in this country, the things that they have faced, the horrendous conditions they faced. And, you know, I think sometimes it's great to sit, it's great to listen, it's great to educate yourself. All that's awesome. But if you'd like to donate as well, go to downeywenjack.ca. That's one of the places where, and there are many different ones, but that's one that I thought I'd highlight today. Obviously send some money over if you can. Obviously, we know times are tight. Recession's upon us, apparently. So any little bit counts, and it goes to a really great cause.
Excellent.
We'll leave it there.
Excellent. Yeah.
Glad
to highlight those.
Yeah, and listen, it's a couple of things. These things pop up in life, right? It's one of those things that we want to make sure that they get the highlights that they deserve. Complete right-hand turn here, but there's no other way to do it. I also want to mention that we still got 24 hours left for game over applications. So if you would like to host a show on SDPN, we want you. All you have to do is set a selfie video in, a little bit about you on a resume, that sort of thing. All of it is at sdpn.ca. You'll see it in the career section. But we're hiring for every Canadian city right now, including Toronto. We have a team in Toronto. But we are looking to add to it, and you're not going to be on the hook for like 82 games here and playoffs. We're putting teams together, so every market's going to be a little bit different. But the idea is that we want people to be able to trade off. We realize you've got jobs on the side, but we just thought if you've ever wanted to take a shot at hosting something, this is your chance to do it. And it's an experiment, and Andrew Berkshire is doing a great job running it. So again, it's sdpn.ca. We'd love to see it, and don't be too hard on yourself if you're like taking a video and you make a mistake or whatever. The one thing we can do is we can teach you how to, the ins and outs of hosting something. We just can't teach you how to be you. And we just want to get a sense of what you are.
Yeah. You forgive yourself for ums and ahs.
Yeah. Who cares about that? I
was so picky making like demos of myself. Like very few of them ever existed. And I hope I destroyed them all. But no, I would take forever. I would get inside my own head and literally just talk. 5 takes max. There you go.
Is that it? 5 takes max?
I made it up just now. I pulled it out of nowhere.
That's a lot of takes.
That seems like a lot of takes.
Yeah. Three takes max.
Cut that number down.
Anyway, send them in. We can't wait to meet you. Very excited. We're going to get the interview process started next week. And into hockey. Is it Rasmus Sandin? Or is it more like Rasmus Sandin?
Hey!
Oh,
you see? That's actually quite good.
That's okay.
Do you like it? It's been a while since
That's
I
a solid 6.5 out of 10.
Wow.
I think
even my high
convincing pass.
school average was higher than that by
Was it?
like
No, it
4
wasn't.
points.
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
because of history.
I had a 69 average.
Because hey,
In throughout high school, that was about where you averaged?
I was averaging like 71, 72. I was not putting effort in.
No.
apparently I was a brainiac in grade 12. I was 82 and a half.
There you go. Yeah, my every report card was like, if he cared, we would do better. What were you?
You were an 89?
Go away! Stop being good at everything.
Only in grade 12. I was a loser in high school, though.
Yeah,
So, like,
apparently.
all I did was fucking school.
Get wedgied, nerd.
Yeah, I was just a AAA baseball player and an 89
No,
average.
that was when I was, like, younger.
Try a little harder, Jesse.
I will.
Try hard. The things we rip on people for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're doing well.
You're readings for losers, loser. Anyway, well, that's great, Jesse. That's
So thank you. You know, it means a lot. It means a lot when you grow up and you realize that it doesn't matter at all.
Yes.
And you
No.
can just get to wherever you want in life and you didn't have to excel at high school. So if you're not excelling at high school right now, don't worry. It doesn't
matter.
really matter when you're an adult at all.
no. It's funny how that works.
You'll talk about it on a podcast 12 years later or whatever, and it doesn't mean shit.
Doesn't mean anything.
Honestly, the only downside about having somewhat weak grades was my parents' disappointment. But beyond that, it hasn't really held me back. I
Right.
mean, honestly, you just go out and do it.
It
Go-
allows
what do you want to do? Go do
If
it.
you're going to a specific discipline, you want to get into a university, you need those grades. Yeah, that matters. But if you're not and you're trying to find another way to get to your career, yeah, just pass.
Were you in the class that I punted on in grade 12?
Which class?
So, okay, the way it works in Ontario is for university applications, they only take into account your top 6 grades.
Oh yeah.
So you can take as many as 8 classes, but nobody did that because why would you take on 8 classes when all you need is 6?
So everybody had to spare in grade 12. It was awesome.
I took 7 because I couldn't decide, and I was like, okay, by like December, I'll know which one of these is my weakest class, and I'll just punt. Like, I'll just totally punt. But instead of dropping it, like, I actually just continued to go and just not try very hard. It was Mrs. Ashby who
she was tough, man. She was
she
tough.
was tough, but I loved her.
Great teacher.
She was one of my favorite high school teachers, and I had her for more than one class that year. But
Yes,
had
I
her for-
was in the class you punted then because I was in both of them.
Do you remember when I got up for my like final presentation and I began my presentation with, listen, I didn't try very hard on this because I already got into the school I wanted to. So sorry that you have to sit through this.
Steve, I can't remember what I ate for dinner yesterday. So no, I do not remember the intro to your presentation in grade 12 for the class that you punted on.
And she loved us for whatever reason, and she just put her face in her
Yeah.
hand and she's like, continue, Steve. I just complete all my grades. It was like 80 something, 80 something, 80 something, 80 something, 55.
She delivered the biggest burn a school teacher has ever unintentionally delivered to me. And I remember it because I was really good at history until I met Miss Ashby. And then I wasn't good at history and I couldn't figure out why. So I stayed late after class. I'm like, why don't you like my essay? And she said, I think you need to read more.
Wow. So she just
You gotta remember, history is my strongest subject. I loved it. And she it's just like stone cold. Like, you're done.
That's brutal.
Like, I'm out. I'm a chalk line at a murder.
Let me guess, you didn't listen.
I audiobooked it later on. I was too interested in partying and meeting girls and striking out.
I had a teacher knife me too, where she was basically like, I think you should take a comedy class.
Oh,
that's nice.
But she said that because she noticed I was always trying to make jokes, but did not find me funny.
oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, like immediately I read all the subtext and what she was telling me. And it was just like,
That's
ow,
nice.
cool. I'm going to think about
But
that
at least she
forever.
was encouraging you to pursue your passion.
She was. We're actually like friends now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
but,
good.
yeah.
So yeah, Rasmus Sandin has signed.
Oh, yeah.
Signed the exact deal he was offered in June. The idea was Dubas wanted Timothy Liljegren and Rasmus Sandin to sign the exact same contract on the exact same day and announce it all together. And Rasmus Sandin said, no, I want $1.6 million. And the Leafs said, no, it's going to be 1.4. And he said, no, I'm holding out. And they said, cool, good luck with that. And obviously with the injuries, Jake Muzzin's got a back injury. He hasn't played, hasn't skated. I'm a little concerned about that, but
Keith doesn't sound as concerned.
Okay.
But,
All right. Just anytime it's a back. Anytime it's
no,
a back.
totally.
He's been skating around, just not as a full participant in practice. But yeah, back.
And then you got Jordy Ben's got something, Dahlstrom's got something. You got it last night, and that's why Kerfoot and Järnkrok had to play defense, which we'll get to.
How did they? Yeah, sure.
So, and I think CJ said it best in his column today for North Star. He was like, he's like, listen, he saw the opportunity, and he did the smart thing, and he took it.
Yeah, and like there are parts of the deal that make it a little bit better for him. He's taking $1.2 million this year, 1.6 next, which means his qualifying offer is 1.6. I think that's completely irrelevant because if at the end of his contract, Rasmus Sandin can only command $1.6 million, it's been an enormous failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he's only worth 1.6 at the end of his contract, don't even bring him back. Like punt, trade him. But I say that as someone who genuinely believes Sandin will be worth far more than that. He looks like he's going to be a great player. I'm really excited to see what Rasmus Sandin can do with an elevated role.
Yes, because it has been a lot of sheltered minutes.
It has been, but that's what you do. That's what you do with a young guy, and when you have Morgan Riley and Jake Muzzin and et cetera, didn't do great on the right side, but there's lots of runway. I think Keefe, he's going to be forced to tinker. He used 2 forwards on defense,
and they looked okay.
And they got a shutout.
Yeah,
they did fine. I don't even think they allowed 30 shots. I know it's a preseason, whatever. Who cares? One thing that I don't like the narrative. I think it's a little bit wrong today. Is people are looking at Sandin getting the same contract he was offered a few months ago, and they're like, "Oh, well, what an idiot!" You're looking at it wrong. And it's weird that people are looking at it wrong, but I think I know why people are looking at it wrong. Because it forces people to give Kyle Dubas credit. I don't think Sandin is an idiot for taking the same contract he was offered previously. I don't think his agent is an idiot for taking the same contract he was offered previously. I think this is an extremely well done job by Kyle Dubas. He stuck to his guns. He had all the leverage in this situation. This wasn't Nylander. This wasn't Marner. This wasn't the previous contracts that he's had to deal with. This was a guy with 86
games or something?
Like barely over 80 NHL games to his name. Less than
88.
30 points. 88.
William Nylander.
Yeah. Yeah, hey.
Represented by the same guy, too.
Yeah. And I assume this felt very good for Kyle Dubas to, I don't know, get one up on Louis Gross if that's how you want to frame it. But it's just a job well done.
Yes.
It's just it's a job well done by the Leafs. I'm glad they stuck to it. This was even less than Frege has been teasing all week. It's going to be 2 years around 1.5, and it's even less. And we know Dubas does some of that last minute stuff. He did it with Mikheyev and got him to take it was a negligible amount of money, but it wasn't negligible for the Leafs. They needed to squeeze every dollar out of it. It's just a job really, really, really well done. And now the Leafs have a good player locked up for 2 years and a really good decor, even when there's injuries.
And I don't think we should blame Louis Gross or Sandin for trying.
No,
I think
for doing their job.
I think they did the right thing here, and they held out as long as possible for a little bit more money, and they took a shot and they tried to get it, and they didn't get it.
And we don't know how much of the old offer was signing bonus. So they got a lot of signing bonus, and there's a lot of tax conversation when it comes to the Leafs and all the Canadian teams and all they're taxed higher, and the American teams have an advantage. The advantage the Leafs have is their financial might and the ability to offer signing bonuses up front, because the quicker you have cash in hand, the quicker you can invest it, and the quicker you can potentially make more money off of that. So $1.4 million for Rasmus Sandin, receiving half of it up front, I can't remember what the bonuses are, will go farther than $1.4 million spread throughout the year, signing with some other team.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage that the Leafs and several other teams throughout the league have.
Yeah, and Leafs fans don't go with the "ha Sandin, you lost" narrative. Like,
this is your guy.
Don't do that.
Yeah, this is your guy.
Like, it's not a thing.
Yeah,
he didn't lose anything.
We do that.
Remember,
It's
you
weird.
wanted this.
Yeah,
Right, you wanted this guy on the team. Now don't make fun of him or say, "Oh, you lost negotiate." It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I also think obviously that sorry, my phone buzzed here. I got a little bit thrown off, but with Sandin, obviously he's got to step up big. But I think it's also interesting. Chris mentioned, and by the way, the CJ show recorded this morning as the Sandin contract was announced. So it'll be very, very interesting. Chris has been following this not just for the last few weeks, not just for the last few months, but for like the last year. And
That's
so I think specifically Chris has some very unique insights on this that I don't think you're going to get anywhere else. And I think if you listen to the CJ show today, first off, they're reacting to it on the fly. Second, one of the things he mentions in the column, which he got posted right away, it's crazy how quickly he had it up, is that the Leafs are going to, with LTIR space, find something contract-wise for Zach Aston Reese. Now, it might be $750,000, but there's another depth option who's got tremendous defensive skill on forward, which they need. And, you know, and I guess one of the standouts for Keefe, too, is Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, who, you know, it seems like the Leafs have got these every year. Dubas does a really good job of finding these depth pieces. Now, we'll see how they play out in the first 20, 25 games, kind of like with Nick Ritchie. But boy, do they have a lot of great options.
They do. And yeah, I could see the problem on the horizon of, you know, you don't have Michael Bunting locked up. You don't have David Kampf locked up. And those are two really important parts of your team. But that sounds like many, many months from now's problem. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I'm just gearing up to enjoy a really fun-looking Leaf season.
And you either re-sign them at the end of the season, or you find the next Kampf and Bunting, and that's his job.
Yep. This is, I always talk about what I wanted out of Dubas when he became Leafs GM. And yeah, he's got some tendencies I don't like, but he's done a very good job.
Yeah.
He's done a very good job.
Lock up the core, fill the gaps.
Yep. He's done a very good job. I would like there to be, you know, a little bit more term to the quote unquote gaps. You know, I mean, people kind of forget that Kerfoot fits under that, and we're trying to punt him out the door, but he was locked up to 4 years.
Yeah.
But
and has been
Bunting
useful.
and Kampf I would like to see get done, but I mean, he's got one season in front of him at a time.
Järnkrok and Kerfoot played defense last night after the injuries.
Järnkrok's another one, by the way, 4 years.
Yeah, and they looked
longest tenured Leaf at the currently, like longest contract on the Leaf,
except for Riley.
Longest forward, yeah, I believe.
Yeah. Well, until I don't know, July 1st next year when Matthews gets signed.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it seem, by the way, that it's like, it's crazy that we just threw this contract at them and they said sure, but we didn't talk about it beforehand.
No, that's illegal.
No.
Also, why is that illegal? Anyway, Järnkrok and Kerfoot playing defense in preseason was cool last night, and they actually asked Sheldon Keefe after the game, okay, let's say you get 2 injuries from your defense during the game. Do you play forwards back there, or do you just keep it to the top 4? And he's like, well, listen, I don't like to answer hypotheticals. And then he starts laughing. And then he's like, I think that's a lot to ask. They lost 2 defensemen early in the first, right? He said, yes, we would actually move forwards back. And they didn't look completely out of place. Like Järnkrok got beat a couple times, but Matt Murray bailed him out.
Yeah. And they're also...
I mean, it's preseason, I know.
It's the preseason.
They're not going up against, the Habs' best. And, I think yesterday was a great example of 18-year-olds with potential are still 18. And, I was ready to watch Juraj Slafkovsky, and I remember it being near the end of the first. I'm like, oh, there he is. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I've noticed him. He did have a few plays that, little flashes where I was like, ooh, that's, this guy, just bumping Victor Mete off the puck, effortlessly because he's an absolute wildebeest on skates. That was fun. But I mean, he's 18 and he's not even surrounded by the best talent the Habs have. He'll be fine. I mean, I'm watching this fully knowing it's preseason.
Yeah,
there was a moment yesterday during the second where I was just like, this hockey is hog shit.
Can
But I love it.
Can I say something about the preseason? There's too many games.
Oh, there's way too many.
7 preseason games for the Leafs. There
Yeah.
needs to be 3 or 4.
It's down from 9.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. There shouldn't be 2 weeks of preseason games, a full schedule, 7 games. It's ridiculous.
I think
It's awful hockey.
The problem is that a lot of these teams do make some serious money off of it. Like the Leafs are close to sellout every night. And I know it doesn't really matter for the Toronto Maple Leafs bottom line, but for a team like Calgary, for a team like, I don't know, let's say Nashville, that might matter a lot more.
Here, can I give you some reasons why the preseason's too long? John Tavares, Jake Muzzin,
Yeah.
Fraser Minton,
Dahlstrom.
Carl Dahlstrom,
Jordy Ben.
Jordy Ben.
Yep.
Who else am I missing?
I know.
No.
I know.
Oh, Adam Gaudette.
Oh, yeah. He's got that shoulder thing.
You're a Canucks fan. Should we continue? Brock Besser.
Yeah.
Ilya Mikheyev.
Yep. Mikheyev's going to be okay.
Zegras, last night, awful.
Oh, did he get smacked?
By the way, I just want to say Mikheyev's going to be okay. He's walking.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
That is good.
It's way too long for all of these teams. I don't know how you make up the revenue if it's significant, but find a way. 3 games max. Extend training camp if you want, but keep these guys safe.
You know what would make the people happy? Jersey patches. We should look into that. People love those, I hear. Anyway, I also want to throw this at you.
It would never work on me. Hey, does anyone want to enjoy a cold glass of milk?
Is the milk from
got a hankering.
Ontario?
Yeah, I would like that.
Oh, yeah.
only that, though.
Some dairy farmers in Ontario made that milk.
Fields
You know,
to
they
forks,
don't get
baby.
enough appreciation.
Kevin Papetti tweeted this last night, and again, I know it's preseason. I know it's like game 3 or 4, and Dennis Malgin is the Leafs' leading scorer right now, but
Hilarious. The best possible outcome. So funny.
But Ilya Samsonov, 40 minutes played, 0 goals against, 16 saves. Matt Murray, 40 minutes played, 0 goals against, 16 saves. If goaltending is mostly a head game, and a lot of coaches will tell you it is, like there are some obviously physical specimens like Vasilevsky who are just, it's different.
Yeah.
Carey Price at his prime, it's different. But most goalies are very, 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 very good at this level. And a lot of it is between the ears or it's injuries. Not a bad start for 2 guys that could use some confidence.
No, I mean, that's all the preseason is about, is gaining confidence. Ilya Samsonov, here's a little bit for you. Matt Murray, here's a little bit for you. And really underratedly, and you could see it on his face, Nick Robertson.
Oh.
Yeah, that was he needed that goal.
Shot.
Yeah.
He needed that goal. What?
Jesse. Give it to him, Jesse.
No, 5 holes.
Give it
Great.
to him.
Top-notch NHL
that's
goal
a fucking-
there.
that's a snipe.
That's a preseason goal if I've ever seen one.
That's a snipe.
Oh, yeah, no. Fucking Jason Spezza in his prime there.
Before we get to you can bet that, just a tweet from the Oak Leafs. Friendly reminder that Nikita Zaitsev has 2 more years left at an AAV that pays basically the same as the 2-year deals that both Liljegren and Sandin have signed.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
So
Say it again.
if you combined Liljegren and Sandin,
Oh, both years of both players.
they still make less than Zaitsev does per year.
Oh, my God.
No. Holy shit.
I know. So, listen. For anybody that's still loves your boy Lou, 1.4 million plus 1.4 million equals 2.8 million.
He got Nikita Soshnikov and he scored a preseason goal.
Nikita Zaitsev makes 4.5 a year.
Man,
So they have Liljegren and Sandin for half of Nikita
that
Zaitsev.
deal was something.
It was something. Okay, with that, let's get into You Can Bet.
Sports Interaction, Canada's Sportbook presents You Can Bet That with David Bastel. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Ontario only.
Okay, Dave, we got to talk Buffalo Bills. I mean, listen, a little bit of a disappointing loss last week. We thought they were going to be the number 1 team in the league, but here come the Dolphins coming in and beating them. What's going on this week? What are we looking at sportsinteraction.com/STPN?
Yeah, you know what? Tough schedule too, eh? You talk about how they started off and now they're in Baltimore. They're favorites in Baltimore by about a field goal. Like at time of our video here, it's going to be a field goal. I think it's probably going to stay around there. I think the Bills get it right. This is a pretty good Ravens team, though. Lamar Jackson is fantastic. And if you have him in fantasy, you're probably winning all your fantasy drafts and so forth. But I think the Bills get it right. What about you guys?
Steve?
I just want to know odds on another press box tantrum where they just slam all the papers and everything.
That was good video.
That's a wild clip.
That was great. That was great. I you know what? I think I'm actually a big believer in the Buffalo Bills. I just the one thing, like when I will start to get worried about it is I think they've got a little bit of that Leafs curse. You put them in the playoffs and things go wrong.
Okay.
But regular season, I'm all on board the Buffalo Bills, and I'm taking that.
All on board.
Absolutely.
Circle the wagons. You got it.
Same.
Secondly, you got a prop here on Matt Murray, and this is going to be an interesting one because he's had a really good start in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but it's a good start. Tell us a little bit about it. Save percentage.
Well, yeah. You know what? Save percentage. So we've set the save percentage at Sports Interaction, and you know it's 909.5. So you're going over or under 909.5 percentage wise, right? So you think that your solid goaltending in the NHL is over that point. Is he going to be a solid goaltender, Steve?
I think so. Man, that's still really high. Like
it is. I know,
because save percentages are going down league wide. It's nothing even against him. And the Leafs did A-OK last regular season with sub 900 goaltending. So for me, I gotta take the under while cheering for the over.
Yeah, he could have a really good season and still be under that 910.
That's one of those little bets where I cheer against myself. You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that.
Like, but if I win, I'm like, well, I won.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but you know, if you had to tell me, and I had to make a bet right now, I don't think Matt Murray's going to be the starter midseason.
Interesting.
I really think it's the other guy because I think there's a lot going on there and pretty good pedigree as well. I know Matt Murray has the cups and so forth, but I just got a feeling Ilya Samsonov's going to be your starter by midseason.
And the less you play, the higher your save percentage can be because you let him less goals.
Potentially, right?
Well, so
well played.
Here's my answer. Who's going to be the starter for the Leafs? Whoever's healthy.
There it is.
Ooh, hey.
SportsInteraction.com/STPN. His name is Dave Bastel, and you can follow him at Dave Bastel on Twitter, along with at SIA Sport. Dave, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, fellas.
It's the last week of September, and we are squarely into fresh ball fall. And I just want to know how you guys are doing down under.
Are
you clean?
Fresh bottom on them?
I mean, I guess if
There's
you want
potential.
it to be. Listen, the Lawnmower 4.0 can take care of it. It's the body trimmer and weed whacker nose and air hair trimmer that all comes together in this package that you would get. They have the advanced skin-safe technology. It will protect you and your delicate parts against, nips and that sort of thing. So you can do fresh bottom autumn and fresh ball fall, and you don't have to worry. Fresh bottom autumn.
That's pretty good.
I thought it was quite
we
good.
should tell Manscaped we got something.
Yeah. Why? They don't need to send us a script. I got Steve.
This is going to be a hit.
Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use that promo code DANGLE. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine. You've heard us talk about this product before, Athletic Greens. What's in this stuff?
The color green.
It is green.
It is green.
He's not wrong.
It's a delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, and you're absorbing, Steve, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right.
Yeah.
We're talking about energy. Do you need that?
Sure.
We're talking about boosting your immune system. Do you need that?
Always.
Your nervous system. Do you need that?
Oh, yeah.
How about your energy?
Definitely.
Recovery?
Wasn't that the first one?
Yeah.
Focus?
Yes.
Two times energy.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe
I
you
need
may.
I need all of that.
Well, listen. It is lifestyle friendly. Eating keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. It doesn't matter. You'll be fine. You should try out Athletic Greens too, because right now they want you to reclaim your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, they're going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com with the promo code SDP. Again, it's athleticgreens.com. SDP is the promo code. Take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate in daily nutritional insurance.
Do you need energy?
Always. So, obviously we had a lot of bad news with injury. We were talking about all the injured players. What you guys did not mention is Sean Couturier does not need surgery.
That's good.
And he is day-to-day.
I read week to week, but day to day is much better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, he could be week to week. I mean, really, isn't it the same thing?
Depends who you ask.
Weeks are just a collection of days.
Wow.
So
are years.
That's true. Is he year to year?
Can you imagine? That's what they made it sound like.
Fractional year to year
At first. But that's good for him.
They've come out and publicly said they don't expect Ryan Ellis to play now. Like, I was reading ESPN this morning, and they were like, yeah, there's no way.
You talk about a guy who was great right up until he couldn't play.
Right.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe he will.
But I think that's great news
this year
for the Flyers. And I think with Torts there and what he's trying to do, which, you know, I'm not always on board with John Tortorella's coaching style, but I will say this. He was bang on that there's a culture problem there.
Mm-hmm.
There's an accountability problem there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had an organization with that issue, he'd be the phone call that I'd be making. And with Couturier there, I think that allows the Flyers to be that much step because if you're injured, you're really not around the team much, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so for Couturier to be in the dressing room, to be able to skate, to be able to play, that is going to be a huge thing for whatever the Flyers are going to be in the future, and whether or not this core or this group of guys even works.
And for a guy who was pretty consistently in the Selke conversation when he was healthy, like you talk about a Torts dream. I think Sean Couturier will absolutely be that. And part of the reason I think Torts is popular with a lot of the players that he's coached is he squeezes blood from a stone. But what that gives birth to is players making money in their career that they never would have made.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If a coach can make a player better, all of a sudden your career earnings go from league minimum guy to I signed a contract where I make $3 million times 3 or something like that.
It's pretty sweet.
That's life changing. That's life changing. You can see why guys like him, and they probably don't like him during practice.
I hope Couturier holds up because in February, if you remember, he only played 29 games last year. He had back surgery. Yeah. And this upper body injury that they thought he was going to require surgery again, which they haven't really specified what the injury is, that's another injury on top of the back surgery that he already had that he's recovering from.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how his season goes and if these injuries hold off, because it doesn't sound like his body's keeping up right now.
There is zero incentive for the Flyers to rush him back. So I assume he's playing because he's good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's not playing yet. You know, he hasn't participated in any practices yet, but it's good that no surgery is required.
But he's year to year.
Just having
so it could happen
year to year, collection of days.
Yeah, it's just a collection of
decades.
Days. Month to month, year to year.
Decade.
Kevyn Adams gets an extension in Buffalo. I didn't realize this. Check this out. The Sabres had 35 points from March 2nd to the end of the season last year.
Dude, they were good. Now,
that's 12th best in the NHL during that span.
During the span where the games didn't matter.
The Leafs were the kings of March.
Yep.
In the early years of my LFR videos.
Oh, yeah. And then they would just miss the playoffs by 2 points.
And they would, they would just be like, all right, let's fuck up our draft pick. And they would do that every
Boyd
year.
Devereaux, last game of the season.
First ever hat trick in a 600-plus game NHL career came in his last ever NHL game, but it got the Leafs Nazem Kadri instead of Braden Shen, which I would say worked out.
Yeah.
Because Burke wanted both. He was pissed. It's a tough one to evaluate. The Leafs used to be the kings of March. The Sabres, I think the Sabres were good before the dog days, though.
They had a good start last year, right? They had they didn't, as in they won a few games, and people were like, "Hey,
yeah."
But then there's. I think the Sabres were among the teams in the NHL who probably played the most games against backup goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to play them. And there's a lot of good backup goalies in the NHL. I think.
And they're in a terrible division for them. Like, it's a terrible division.
They deserve, I'm going to say, reserved credit. Here's a question I have, Jesse, who has a computer in front of him. Who the hell are the Sabres' two goalies? I know they have Craig Anderson, who's 41. And
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen?
Did he
resign? Eric Comrie and Craig Anderson.
That's tough.
That's not great.
That's tough.
Yeah,
Like,
Ukko-Pekka and Malcolm Subban are in the AHL.
I mean, like
That's their 4.
that's and I mean, Craig Anderson was better than anyone could rightfully expect a 40-plus-year-old to be in the National Hockey League. But we're getting away from the point. Kevyn Adams has done a job with the Buffalo Sabres that prior to the Eichel trade, I would have never imagined possible.
Hopeless.
Yeah.
Completely
It felt hopeless.
hopeless. They did a great job in that deal. I'm taking nothing away from Jack Eichel. I expect him to have an amazing season with the Vegas Golden Knights. But they got some really good pieces.
Well, okay. Alex Tuch, Peyton Krebs, a first and a second.
Yeah.
That's
And
really good.
noted Alan Walsh client, JJ Peterka.
That's right.
Who I even texted him when he announced that. I was like, JJ Peterka's really good. Like, good job.
The Buffalo Sabres have some real pieces. It's just a little quick to be like, they had a great end of the season, because teams don't go 0-82. Every team will reach like a threshold, So, but
They had 35 points, which is good for 12.
But if
in
you
the
look at the
NHL over that
Buffalo
time.
Sabres and the job Kevyn Adams has done, is thumbs up. Like, fantastic. They have serious pieces. Like Tage Thompson, the 41 goals he had last year.
Absurd.
Who saw that coming? Even
Absurd.
Dahlin's improving a lot.
Dahlin taking like a full season of Dahlin performing like that with Owen Power behind him.
Yep.
That could really be a disruption in the Atlantic.
Dylan Cousins is still there.
Not quite at the same level as those guys, but yeah.
Still there.
Still there.
Jack Quinn. They got
Yeah.
a lot of prospects.
And
a lot
40
of
goal
good,
scorer Tage Thompson.
and 40 goal scorer. They got a lot of good pieces.
A resurgence.
Very excited for the future of the Buffalo Sabres.
A useful, I'm going to say, Jeff Skinner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Useful.
Is he overpaid? Yeah, okay, fine. But is he useful? Absolutely.
Ilya Labushkin.
So you're...
They got Ilya Labushkin.
They got Ilya
I was wondering
Labushkin.
They got
where he went.
Boosh? I didn't realize that.
I forgot about that.
I'm going to miss Boosh. I liked him.
Boosh. I miss offensive dynamo Ilya Labushkin.
Oh, man. They
Yeah, like,
weren't kidding
no
with like, you
points.
won't see much on the offensive side, and they were not kidding.
Yeah, but then
Like
he scored,
nothing.
I think, amazing 2 gols with
Yeah.
the Leafs.
Weird.
And he had that one crazy rush play. Oh, it was great.
So the Kevyn Adams extension, I think, I mean, Buffalo, like the light is at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel's quite long at this point. Kevyn Adams deserved the extension.
The light's on.
The light's on.
Light wasn't
earned.
on.
Yeah.
Well-earned extension.
Yeah,
Okay.
light wasn't on for a long time.
Also, it's that part of the year where everything's hopeful. Listen, you have to remember, as Steve says, the best shape of your life this time of year.
And no one's lost a game in months.
Bingo. And so I'm happy for Buffalo and that sort of thing. I'm not saying that they're going to be this team this year, but for at least 3 teams every year, the situation feels absolutely hopeless. It was just that usually those teams switch out. And for the last 8 or 9, it's been Buffalo.
Yeah. Listen, someone's
So it's nice to see them.
yeah, someone's got to finish last.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think there's anywhere to hide in the Atlantic. Like even the teams that finish 6th, 7th, 8th, I think are going to make it really difficult to earn points, and there's going to be a lot of close games.
I like that as a Leaf fan because, and I said terrible division. What I meant by terrible division is that it's terrible for the Sabres because it's going to be really hard. But
okay.
every
But
game's
it's
going to be
so
hard.
good.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. But with the Leafs, I really like that because one of the knocks against them, and I don't think it's warranted anymore, it might have been early on, is that there were nights where they just didn't show up. And
a lot of them are against Buffalo.
yeah. Yeah, they've lost a surprising amount of games to Ottawa and Buffalo recently. It's crazy. But I don't think that they're going to be allowed to do that. And once you're in that mode of, we're going to have to fight every night, there is no off night here. Like maybe we get one night against Philadelphia and it's not so bad. But even then, it's torts, man.
It's torts.
It's not easy.
And every player on that team has 2 fists. That's...
Oh, yeah, they're going to be the Broad Street Bullies again?
Is there an easy game in the Eastern Conference? No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. There might be teams that are easier to get points out of, but every game is unpleasant.
Jesse wanted to talk about this last time, but the most important list in the world got in the way. Although I did get some complaints. The kid line in New York, Lafreniere, Churtle, and Kako.
Heedle.
Keedle. I always get it.
You
Heedle.
can be forgiven. It's
Philip
not
Keedle.
spelled Heedle.
Gerard Gallant said yesterday, if they're starting the season together, I'm happy with it.
Ooh.
They played sheltered minutes, but they were extremely effective in the playoffs last year, which is when they originally were together, Jesse.
I was going to save this for our season previews, but I want to say it. I want to say it now.
No.
Ahead of that.
No.
I want to preview my preview.
No.
I'm all in on the New York Rangers.
Shut up.
That's my Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah,
pick
real
this year.
hot take. Team that went to the Eastern Conference Final.
Excuse me. There's 32 teams. You got to pick one, and I'm all in.
Eastern Conference Final with the Vezina winner.
This team is
real hot take.
ridiculous.
I like Jesse for his risk taking.
I'm just saying. I'm getting it out there. So when all of you follow my lead, and you're all in on the New York Rangers as well as your Stanley Cup pick, I just let you know I was there first.
Wow.
The team is ridiculous. They're so crazy deep, and they have the best goaltender in the world.
It's like Jesse planting a flag in the middle of Dundas Square. Like, you didn't discover it, man. Like,
this is where the center of the city will be.
Yeah.
Okay. There are like 10 good teams in the NHL, and this is the one I'm picking.
Jesse, they call that shooting an arrow and then painting a bullseye around it.
That's not what... I don't think everybody's out there being like, the New York Rangers are going to be the best team in the NHL. How many people are saying that?
Ranger fans.
Okay.
there's one.
And there's a lot of them.
Okay.
There's a lot of Ranger fans.
Sure. Best
They
team.
don't count?
Okay, best team in the NHL. Not a lot of people.
Yeah. It's a common opinion. It's so common. Everybody's saying that. Move on. Okay, Rangers fans, I'm sorry. I tried to give you some love. I tried to put my flag to your team. I tried to put my flag down Dundas Square where your team is in New York. It's Times Square.
It's Times Square, but not as good.
And they won't let me because they said everybody's doing it.
Fewer M&M
everybody's
stores.
there already. I'm just joining it.
Our Times Square is less naked cowboys, more religious fanatics, basically. Just everybody yelling too close to the microphone.
That guy, I watched him make a woman jump out of her shoes one day. That freaking guy. If you're not from Toronto, you're not going to get that. If you're from Toronto, you're howling.
He's got one of those Yorkville PA systems, and he's got it turned up to like literally 11. And
the guy I'm talking about?
Oh, well, yeah. Like
he's got equipment now?
Oh, no. Well, there's guys there with equipment. I think are we talking about a different guy?
I'm talking about the guy who always
there's four
walks
different
around-
corners, man. Like they're everywhere.
No, the guy who walks around with shopping bags who just screams believe.
Oh, no, not that guy.
He scared the shit out of someone one day, and I really had to stifle that laugh.
I think it's the top 3 deepest forward core in hockey. Mm-hmm. That fourth line with Ryan Reeves and Barclay Goodrow is going to be something of
you just hate
just an absolute chaos in the playoffs again.
So not fun.
When they have that third line, that kid line is going to be the most fun line in hockey. Zabinajad up front, Panarin there.
Kravtsov.
Kreider is going to score a shit ton of goals. And then you go to the defense, and they have the top 3 defensemen, Cale Makar, and then probably somebody, and then Adam Fox. I don't know if we're putting Yossi there, who we're ranking it above him.
Fox, I think, is comfortably top 5.
Comfortably top 5?
Comfortably top 10, probably top 5.
Disrespect. Disrespect. I'm putting top 3 defensemen in the league. Adam, what does the Fox say? And then you got young guys like Keandre Miller.
Yeah,
who's coming up? Who's going to start just wrecking in a couple of years?
And
this year, hopefully.
Apparently, Jimmy Vesey's had an unbelievable camp. I was reading this morning. Arthur Staples like, hey, watch out. Also,
second pairing Trouba, who's been an all-star.
I know, and
Capitan.
He's the oldest defenseman they currently have on roster right now, and he's 28.
Who's
the
that?
next
Trouba?
The next eldest is Adam Fox at 24 and Ryan Lindgren at 24.
Are you serious?
They have a very young core.
This team is ridiculous.
It's amazing. Now, Jesse didn't mention the guy that I was the biggest fan of this summer. I thought it was one of the most adept signings this summer, and the Rangers signed him. Who am I going to say?
Vincent Trocheck.
I thought you were going to say noted Alan Walsh.
Rangers research.
No, the Ranger killer Halak is now with the Rangers, but Vinny Trocheck, I think he is awesome. He's useful. He can score a lot. He can do a lot, and he comes from a really good system in Carolina as well. And I don't know, man, but what a great signing.
A great addition to what I would call the swarm. The Rangers are just, they're a swarm. It's, where do you hide?
You don't hide.
Roster. You don't. You can't.
To think that 3 years ago, this is an organization that put out a letter that said, we're going to rebuild, be patient with us. And to see where they are now, it's so impressive. And I hope that they do some damage this year, again, as they did last year, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
We praised it for a reason, like when that decision was made. And look at them now.
Mm-hmm.
Broad Street's back.
Even though I don't really root for the
Broad
success.
Street?
Broadway.
Broad Street is Flyers.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man, Flyers and Rangers fans are mad at you now.
I'm sorry.
Even though I don't really want to root for James Dolan to have more successes, but
Why are you
James
booing
Dolan's
me?
not
I'm wrong.
checking out the Rangers.
Right.
He's watching the Knicks.
He's got other things.
He's not watching them either. He's playing with his band.
Yeah, his
that's
dad band.
right, yeah.
He got sued because he played with his band too much.
Listen. I respect that he's got a dad band. A good dad band, a really good dad band is a good band. Like they're fun to go see.
My dad's in a dad band.
Your dad's in a dad. Exactly.
That'd be
He's
like
in a grandpa
me
band.
and Adam suing Steve from SDPN, suing you because you're not paying enough attention to the company because you're playing too much video games.
We
You
could.
know?
We could make a case, I think.
And my response would just be like the house
It's
building
research.
song from Red Dead.
What?
What would it
Let me
be?
get a board with a saw and a rule and I'll cut it.
I don't remember. I don't know Red Dead like
ladder with a hammer and a nail and I'll nail it.
Steve knows Red Dead like the Pope knows the Bible. Like it's
so
just
hard to build a little house together. You don't know that song?
No, I haven't played it in 4 years, man. And I never finished the game. I should have finished
You're a
it.
piece of shit.
I know. I never finished any game. That's my thing.
You're low honor.
Update on Hockey Canada is a little more serious, but not too like. The only update I'm going to give you is that they got to go in front of another committee. Hockey Canada, this is according to The Athletic, Hockey Canada Board of Directors Chair Andrea Skinner, former Chair Michael Brindamore are among a group of people summoned to appear at a parliamentary hearing October 4th regarding the governing body's handling of sexual assault allegations in London 2018. Former Hockey Canada President and CEO and current Edmonton Oilers President and CEO, I believe, Bob Nicholson was also asked to appear. He'll be before the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage, which is investigating Hockey Canada and their handling of the sexual assault allegations from members of the 2003 and 2018 Canadian World Junior teams. And we've been wondering about Bob Nicholson's piece in this for a while, right? Because he was there for a long, long time.
He was too influential in the organization for him to have zero input into any of this. You know what I mean? You have to at least bring him before a committee and ask him some questions. I would think I don't know. This could be a really rough couple of weeks for him.
Could be. So we'll see how that goes. And I just want to put that out there. And again, hard right turn. Here we go. Scott Wheeler is coming on the show. We haven't had him on in forever. He's going to talk about his brand new book. Let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing on a big deal. A man whose book could outsell Steve's and has far less zoo content.
Yes. Way less. To its detriment.
It's Scott Wheeler of The Athletic to talk about his new book. Hey, Scott!
I don't know about outselling Steve, but definitely less zoo content. In fact, zero zoo content.
Wow. Behind the scenes with the Toronto Maple Leafs at the draft. Scott, what are we in for with this book?
Ooh, it's 20 stories that bring you from their very first draft to finishing at the pandemic draft. So they pitched it originally to me as kind of do the encyclopedia, do every draft class, every player, go through it that way. And when I went back to the publisher, I kind of said, that's not really what I'd hope to do with this. If I'm going to do it, I'd really like it to be storytelling. I would like it to be here's the sort of moments behind the scenes. Here are the decisions that were and weren't made. Here's the stories of the general managers, the scouts, the players, their families, their agents. Here's how the whole draft process works, from scouting these players to the big day to the development process after they're picked. So that is what this is. This is 50 plus interviews with former scouts, general managers, players, agents, you name it. And piecing together sort of 20 stories. So there are gaps in between. It'll skip 5 years ahead kind of thing. But it does still start at the very beginning with their very first pick of Walt McKechnie, and kind of finishes with the story of Ryan Tverberg, who was drafted during the pandemic draft when he didn't even play actual hockey games. So two sort of polar ends of the spectrum there.
The 7th rounder the Leafs just had to have in a trade with the Boston Bruins. I remember that.
You're probably the only one who does remember. We need Scott's book to remember that.
There's two people.
His dad sent the Leafs videos of him training. That was the scouting process.
No
and they
way.
knew that if he was going to be picked, it was only by the Leafs. And so when the Leafs made their second of 2 7th round selections on draft day, they thought, it's over. He's not getting picked. So that late trade with Boston was the saving grace. And it was literally just the Leafs watching him through little videos that his dad, who's a Toronto guy, was sending to members of the Leafs front office.
Wow.
That's absolutely fantastic.
This is already a must read. That's an incredible story.
Already.
I wish my parents were that supportive. Come on.
I mean, yeah,
amazing.
no one was like, you got to watch my son's YouTube.
Yeah,
videos.
no.
I didn't really get that. My dad's like, I don't understand how to turn the computer on. Scott, so you did a bunch of interviews. You can only get them by asking. What was to you the most surprising one you obtained? Just a shot in the dark that you were actually able to pull off?
Maybe some of the ones of former staff that are just now working for other organizations. I knew going into it that a lot of the people who were a member of the Leafs organization, especially on the executive side, have now moved on. So John Ferguson Jr., for example, he's now with Arizona, but was with Boston when I reached out to the Bruins. And the Bruins immediately got back to me and said, no problem. As long as you're not talking to him about decisions made in Boston, he can wax poetic however he'd like about the things he did and didn't do in Toronto.
Yeah, I bet they said that.
Yeah, I bet they were great with that.
and John was great with that. John, he allowed me to kind of put it in this story, but I kind of framed John just as one example, as someone who wanted to sort of right the ship. Like, you could tell in our repeated conversations that he was defensive about how he's perceived in Toronto, and very also proud of his draft record. I think if you go back and you look at Fergie's drafts with the Leafs, that was one of the things that he actually did quite well. You go through some of the late round picks in particular, Komarov, Reimer, Strawman, et cetera, they actually, Gunnarson's another one. So they actually did quite well. So things like that, where I'm asking other organizations to give me people specifically to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Those were some of the trickier ones. Only got 2 no's. One of them was actually from Tyler Biggs himself. Mm-hmm. I've included in the book the text message that him and his dad sent to me after I'd reached out to them, which basically said, "Thanks for reaching out. We really appreciate that you want to tell this as kind of a human story and that you'd like to tell Tyler's story, but it is what it is. People have made up their minds on him and he'd rather not participate." So in the sort of introduction to the book, I've included that text message, and that became in particular probably the most difficult story to tell, because I absolutely had to tell the story of Tyler Biggs, and I had to tell it through 10 other people who weren't him. So, and still try to tell it in the sort of human way that I promised to him and his dad that I would. So that piece, those two, the getting Fergie and then getting the rejection from Tyler and having to tell that story differently than I'd hoped to, those were probably the 2 big ones that were tough.
What's the best part of the book, and why is it the forward?
The forward's up there. The forward's up there, buddy. You did a great job, and I am indebted to you. I really appreciate that you took the time. And I know you've talked about it on this show, and I listened to the podcast back a couple of months ago. But you were going through a lot when you made that time for me. So I appreciate that.
What do you think would surprise people the most about draft day situations? Like, one of the things that blew my mind years ago was, and this story I think is out there now, but there was that sort of notorious standoff over Mitch Marner with Mark Hunter and Mike Babcock. For some reason at that time I was ignorant enough and perhaps young enough to believe, everybody just gets along. And I don't, those are 2 very strong personalities, and there's going to be some fireworks between them at some point. What do you think people will be most surprised by when they come away with this book?
How close some of the calls are. I mean, I think the most shocking things in the book will be the players that they didn't pick, players that fans and media have never reported on, that they passed up on Hall of Famers, that it was between a Hall of Famer and a guy who became a third liner kind of thing. So those, I think, will sort of rock people's worlds a little bit. But even beyond that, just how close some of those conversations are at the draft table. It's not like these lists are ironclad and they go up there and we all hear them afterwards, right? We hear Brian Burke say that Morgan Rielly was number one on their list, and you go down the list. I've got Morgan Rielly, the story of how and why they picked Morgan Rielly in the book as well. And it's not as certain as they make it out to be. There is a lot of back and forth. There is phone calls to the stage with 10 seconds left to say, this is our guy. And then they're sitting at the table saying, holy shit, did we pick the right guy? So it's just hard. It's an extremely hard thing. And it has changed. I think that in and of itself will come across to people in the book. It has changed so much over the years. There was a time not that long ago when the Leafs used 3 first-round picks on 3 Belleville Bulls. And the reason that they did that was because they weren't watching Teemu Selanne over in Europe. They weren't watching Mike Modano south of the border. They were just getting in their cars with a limited budget from Harold Ballard, and they were driving to Belleville every week with 4 different scouts who were supposed to, in theory, be in 4 different places. And then they picked 3 guys from the same team. And that has just changed so much. We know now with video and these huge scouting departments, that there's just this incredible machine that goes into drafting these players. And that has happened really rapidly if you actually look at it on a timeline, right? It's not that long ago that the Leafs had 2 or 3 amateur scouts. They were all former players, and that's how they drafted and selected players. And we know that it's obviously a long way from that now.
I have an intermittent twitch in my left eye that comes out when I'm stressed. And I hadn't had it for a while, and it came out during that answer. So thank you, Scott. That was
that's pain, Scott.
That's agony. It's not just agony though. The book, right? Like there's some good ones also.
Oh, there's some great ones. William Nylander, Morgan Rielly. You go down the list. The Leafs draft history isn't, frankly, a particularly rosy one since the inception of the draft in the '60s.
Shocking.
But there are some nice stories along the way, and even the ones that don't turn out perfectly. I had a great conversation with Luke Shen for the book, for example, and sort of walked him through being the guy. He was told in his very first press conference after the draft, what are you going to do to write 45, 50 years of failure, right?
Oh,
and just getting into the psyche of that as an 18-year-old. And but there are great ones. I mean, in particular, the more recent stuff, that the William Nylander picks of the history, right? So there are some nice stories for sure.
Amazing. Well, listen, Scott, congratulations on the book. We know it was a ton of work. We know from sitting next to Steve through his book writing process that it's a long, arduous process. We're really looking forward to reading it. And obviously you can check out Scott's work in The Athletic as well, because you're doing the prospect stuff all the time on top of writing a book, and, a couple of kids too. It's just, there's a lot
boring
going.
Life.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, about a month to my deadline for the manuscript, our house flooded as well. So we had that going for us.
As, of course, is tradition.
Of course. Well, listen, October 4th, you can check it out behind the scenes with the Toronto Maple Leafs at the NHL Draft. If you need links to it, check out Scott C. Wheeler on Twitter right now. He's got chapters, Barnes & Noble in the States, and Amazon links for you. So you can either pre-order or order the day of. Scott, congratulations. Best of luck with the book, and it's great to have you on again.
Cheers, guys. It's been a while. You've got a nice new studio since the last time I joined you, too.
We're not in Steve's basement now. Now it's mine. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. We think it's important to talk about mental health. Steve, you've talked about this before openly. Mm-hmm. And, therapy is something you've done. Not to put you on the spot, but I don't mean to put you on the spot. Would you say it's helped?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's helped me figure out the inner workings of my head and handle life better.
And isn't that what it's all about, right? Problem solving. And if you're thinking about
that's a good way of putting it.
That's how I look at therapy. I think it's like, how do we solve these complex issues that we're faced with? So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp's a great option. It's convenient, it's accessible, it's affordable. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey. And you can switch therapists anytime if you're not vibing, and that can happen, right? So when you're ready to feel at the top of your mental health game, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhealth.com/STP to get 10% off your first month. That's BETTERHELP.com/SDP. You're 21 versus now. You're 21 and it's Friday night. What are you doing?
I am drinking like we're running out.
Go to Gracie's.
Go to Gracie's.
Go to Grace O'Malley's. I'm staying there till 2 a.m.
Yeah. Now, do you rebound the next morning because you have an early morning shift somewhere?
No.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. 21, yeah.
Compared to now, right?
Now it's...
if you did that same thing now.
Leave by 10.
That's right. Z-Biotics can help. Here's the thing. Z-Biotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic and the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break that byproduct down. It is designed to work like your liver, but where you need it your most, which is in your gut. And just remember to drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly, of course, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. And it even applies if you're going to bed at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., Steve.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And by the way, for my wedding reception, you stayed later than 10.
I sure did.
It was really nice.
What a good friend.
Give ZBiotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/STP to get 15% off your first order and use that code STP at checkout. ZBiotics is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money. No questions asked. The NHL season starts next week.
What?
You want to bet?
No, I believe you.
You should do it at sportsinteraction.com.
Oh,
It's Canada's sports book. Football's back. Baseball playoffs coming up. Hockey season literally next week. You can bet pregame. You can bet live and play like Jesse did when we were at Game 7 for the Leafs, the last time the Leafs played hockey. And, on many of the prop bets, too. You can check them all out. They're great. It's made for Canadians by Canadians. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Head on over to sportsinteraction.com/STPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/STPN. Ontario only. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
The Presser. SDP. The Steve Dangle Press Conference.
I like your sweater, by the way.
Thank you. It's a CJ Show shirt from the SDPN thing, and it says that's ridiculous. Also, I really love how with the SDPN gear, how the red comes out. I had an Adams History Corner long sleeve shirt that you guys remember. You guys got it for me for my birthday.
It's one of the only shirts I haven't packed yet.
They're perfect
because I'm gonna wear it tomorrow.
Well, yeah, you want to use it. You got to wear a long sleeve shirt when you're moving.
That fits you perfectly.
Thank you.
That sweater.
Anyway, I just thought I'd wear it for them because today was a big show for them. They had the Rasmus Sandin thing happen during the show, which I love. And also, I just want a little shout out to my boys.
You've been hitting that bench. Looks like you've been hitting that bench.
SDPNshop.ca if you want to get some SDPN merch. And Mark Antoine Laporte that has a question for Adam Wilde.
Oh.
Can Adam Wilde apologize for ranking coach's hotness segment? 10 minutes I'll never have back.
I will not apologize. I will not apologize because
a lot of people hated last
David
episode.
Quinn commented on it, and so did Bruce Boudreau.
And so did, I want to say, Jay Woodcroft, and so did... Everyone's been asked about it.
I told you it was a story, and it was. Okay? Also, I love David Quinn's response.
Who was apparently ranked 29th.
Yeah.
He's gorgeous.
Sheng Ping, who covers the San Jose Sharks, and does such a great job. You got to follow him. He said, how do you feel about being ranked the 29th most handsomest coach in the NHL? And he's like, oh, it means I'm not last. It's what coaching does to you. Look at me. And then he said on Derek Lalonde, who's number 3, he's like, I know Derek Lalonde. He ain't number 3. There's a 3 there, but there's also a number after it. Please quote me.
Wow. This is exactly, I said this is like the South Park episode, and it is.
It is.
He's Butters. I'm number 11. Hooray! That's exactly him.
100%. It's great.
Apologize. Also Zach Park reference. Kiss it.
Stop
That's a good episode.
Stop.
All right, this question is from Bernie Wong, BM2 Wong on Twitter. Bernie wants to know, if you caught Aaron Judge's home run ball What would you do with it? Sell it, keep it, give it back?
I would.
For context, Aaron Judge in baseball hit the 61st home run of the season for himself, which ties the American League record set by Roger Maris way back when. So it happened at Rogers Center, and the ball went into the bullpen, but a guy right above the bullpen had his glove right there and almost caught it, and they're suspected that the ball could sell for a couple $1 million if they had caught it. Steve, what would you do with it?
I think what I would do is fumble the catch and set Italian people back a century.
What do you mean?
By being the guy named Frankie Lasagna who dropped the ball. That's his friggin' name. Did you know that?
Frankie Lasagna?
His name is Frankie Lasagna. Now, there's some confusion. I don't know, because there were two people. There was the guy who...
it's like on camera, like...
Yeah,
there's one in a
upset.
Blue Jays jersey. I think he was in a Danny Jansen jersey.
The powder blue one?
And that's a fan. You got a Danny Jansen jersey. You're a fan.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a guy who was very upset about it, who I think was named Frankie Lasagna. And then there was another guy who missed it and instinctively threw his glove.
That's the guy I'm talking about. That's the main guy.
He hit a stranger, I assume, in the forehead with his glove. That's, oh my God. Oh, Jays fans. And then Jordan Romero was the guy who ended up with the ball.
Romano?
What did I say?
Romero.
Oh, yeah, Romano, sorry.
That's Ricky.
Paisan. Jim excuse.
I thought I do want to ask the question. Jesse, being the person who is the most educated with baseball, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Bonds, McGuire, Sosa. And there was for a while there in that one magical summer, it was McGuire, Sosa, and Ken Griffey Jr. was in the race too. Mm-hmm. Okay, but he didn't. He kind of tailed off at the end because he didn't take steroids, allegedly. Ken Griffey Jr. did not actually take steroids. The other two allegedly.
No, it was tainted meat.
Yes. So
it always is.
So what are your thoughts on those records as they stand? Are they records at all? Or as soon as, according to Roger Maris Jr., mm-hmm. once Aaron Judge hits this next home run, if he does it, he is the record holder.
73 is the record. Like, don't let Roger Maris get in the way of the truth of the matter. The 73 that Barry Bonds hit in a single season is the record. All those records should stand. It reminds me of the Olympics way back when with Ben Johnson, when everybody in that race was on steroids. Everybody at the time in baseball was cheating. It was the game you're taking away Barry Bonds being a good hitter. Steroids doesn't improve your hand-eye coordination, your ability to hit the ball. It improves it improved everything about his baseball ability for sure. It made him from this stolen base guy to a home run hitter. Like, it turned him into that very clearly.
He was the king of the least mobile era in baseball history.
Yeah, right. Honestly.
All of them are 250 pounds, like professional wrestlers.
He transformed his body, but like, it also wasn't illegal.
Yes.
At the time in
it
baseball.
Wasn't.
There was no
testing.
Nothing in the rules against that. So I don't know how you strip the record, because if we're editing records, we're going back and taking away everything. We're putting it in context. It's important to look at it in context. But the record is 73 because that is what is the record. That's what he accomplished. But know the context, know the history of your sport. Know that he did it while on steroids.
As a baseball fan, and as someone who played a level of baseball higher than the vast majority of people, what is
you guys overrate that so hard?
Well, you played AAA, man. I think it's a
more
big
than
deal.
Adam and I. There you go.
14.
I played T-ball, man.
We go up to most people on the street. You played higher level of baseball than
go
me.
ahead.
What is more on the side of cheating? Taking steroids or sticky stuff?
Good question. I don't know. I think it's all cheating. I think it's all in the
interesting.
Steroids also. It wasn't in the book. Like,
yeah,
the sticky stuff. You couldn't do sticky stuff. That was in the rule book. That's so. I guess that's more blatant cheating if we're ranking cheating. One thing's a rule that you broke, and the other one wasn't a rule, but it was code, and you shouldn't have done it. It was a rule, but not tested for.
Okay.
For
people who don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about sticky stuff that pitchers were basically unhittable for a while because they were using extra sticky stuff to throw these ridiculous pitches.
Baseball
and now they're not allowed.
A weird sport in that cheating is a part of its history. pine tar on bats, the sticky stuff, using it to get a little bit more
Trash
on
cans.
the baseballs. It's the spitball.
And Shoeless-
Spitball has its name from
Shoeless Joe, boys. They threw a World Series.
the Chicago White Sox in
17. Wasn't it? Yeah.
1917 World Series. They literally have it out of the record books because they cheated.
The guy who trained Lucky Luciano, and Lucky Luciano was the guy who created the mob as we know it today.
Oh.
Arnold Rothstein bought off the White Sox.
He bought the World Series.
Wow.
He was such a prodigious gambler that, yeah, the story goes that they threw the series.
They rigged the World Series.
Yes.
And 100 years later, that tradition continued with the Houston Astros, where they were using garbage cans to tip pitches. Like, baseball has this long history of cheating, and it's fascinating if you're just interested in sports. It's awful if you're interested in the credibility of the sport, but it's important to know all of these rules and records in context because there is a long history of cheating.
And I do want to throw this out there. The last year, the 2 of the last 3 years, Barry Bonds was in Pittsburgh. So this is pre-steroid era, 90. I believe it's 1990 and 1992. He was an MVP winner. Like he
didn't need it.
He didn't need it. He hit 34 home runs and had 103 RBIs. And I'm just trying to find his stolen bases. But like, you're talking a guy with 36, 37 doubles in a season. Like he's crazy numbers. I want to get your thought on that, Jesse, because I'm of two minds. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm still like, yeah, they were taking steroids, and that does certainly help some things. But at the same time, even I can remember that summer watching that home run race every day. I'd wake up and it was so cool. Yeah. And you wake up and you watch TSN or you put on the score or whatever, and you're like watching it. And I watch those replays over and over and over again. And I just remember thinking, like, I knew at that time that all those players were on steroids. That was open. I knew. And I was like 10 or 11. People were openly talking about it.
I thought, I still believed in superheroes.
Yeah.
No, sports radio would openly talk about it back then.
Oh, I was too consumed with like the Stone Cold Steve Austin era of
steroids.
It's because like right now, all this hype around Aaron Judge is spectacular and it's great. But imagine it's Aaron Judge and then 2 more guys. That's what we had back then. It was crazy. So it's this times 3, and it was so much fun. Yeah, I believe too. Like I didn't know they were on steroids until like 5 years later.
I remember baked into the highlights would be Sammy Sosa hit a home run tonight or 2 home runs tonight to catch up to Mark McGwire. Then an hour later, Mark McGwire did this, and they would show him like retaking the lead, and it was awesome.
Sammy Sosa, who once got caught with a corked bat.
Oh yeah,
because his bat broke and there was a cork in it.
Right,
also a cheater.
I learned what a corked bat was at that point. I didn't know what that was.
I was like, how does that give you an advantage? I don't understand.
I still don't fully understand.
What hits the ball harder? Further. It's like a
something about physics.
like a spring.
Oh,
with the ball when it hits it. Yeah.
I have a little cork
interesting.
In it. Yeah,
sure.
It's illegal. That's the point. Is you can't do that, and he did it. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's a fascinating discussion.
What would you do with the ball if you had caught 61 from Aaron Judge?
I mean, I think obviously you want to sell it, but you're not selling it. You're not going to sell it. You're gonna give it to. I mean, it's 60. You're giving it to Aaron Judge.
Really?
I'm just going to hand the ball to Aaron Judge.
You're going to hand $1 million.
That's not $1 million. First off, I'm still not totally sure it's $1 million. Second, they were always going to get that ball. The Yankees were always going to get that ball. Maybe you try to strike a deal with the Yankees and be like, give me. There's got to be some sort of financial compensation. If you're a Yankee fan, maybe you get season tickets for life or something. But like, I'm telling you, they were gonna get that ball. They were gonna get that ball.
I was daydreaming in the car on the way here, and I was actually thinking about this. I don't want to play this card, but I think it'd be different for us because people would see us catch the ball on TV and they'd be like, "That's Steve." So I think if I caught a $2 million ball, people might have something to say about it. Spend it on this, you cheap prick. Give it away. You're a bastard.
Get a camera stand.
Yeah. Get some lights, you piece of shit. Like, yeah. But I would. Is it ethical to say to the Yankees, I'll give you the ball, no problem. However, I would like you to do right by me by making some sort of a donation to something I care about.
So let me tell you.
Is that ethical?
Let me tell you a short answer on that one.
Ethical?
Yes.
That's ethical.
Because here's the thing. You have something that they want.
Yeah.
The Yankees are used to having something that you want, which is tickets to a Yankees game.
Yes.
Right? And tickets to a Yankees game, I'm not sure if you've seen lately, there's been a big outcry in New York. They're almost unaffordable now. Leaf fans can relate. But the thing is, at a baseball game, there's 50,000 people, not 20.
Right.
And so the price, I think they did a whole thing on this like 4 years ago when they introduced like a new, there's like, there's always like the first class seats, right? There's always that. But then they reduced, like it was like an upper echelon where you were paying like $16,000 a game. And like, or something like, it was some ridiculous thing that they have.
Holy
it was
American.
And again, I'm paraphrasing because it's been a long time since I read that article, and you know how terrible my memory is. But
that's why you suck at history.
It's one of those things that I think, yes, you absolutely hit up the Yankees for that. But I'm telling you, you're not leaving the ballpark last night with that ball. The Yankees are going to get it from you any way they possibly can. Sure, you'd make some money. Maybe you get some free stuff. Maybe you get to meet Aaron Judge. Meet his mom, who looked adorable. She was so sweet. They're cheering him on. And Roger Maris Jr. gave her a hug. It was so sweet. It was lovely.
They were all at the game?
They were at the game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, because the Yankees charge tens of thousands of dollars per seat per game. They can afford to fly him in. But I think, you say to the organization, listen, normally this is flipped around, so this is new for you, but you're going to have to do right by me on this one. And I do think there is a bit of an obligation when somebody sets a record that's 61 years old. That's how old this record is.
That's kind of ironic. I like that.
Right? And it was set in 1961, I believe.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, baseball's weird with numbers like that.
What?
If you're a numerologist, baseball's your sport. I think you do have a little bit of a moral obligation to try to work out a deal with the Yankees to give it back to them.
Okay.
Because he did it.
I'm not asking for $2 million personally. I would like you to give a donation that you think is appropriate to X organization.
Yeah, or no. Make your damn money and do a donation to charity.
Or you give me the money and then I'll do it.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
But
I don't know how that's supposed to work. I've never caught $1 million baseball.
Sell it on eBay.
There you go.
Yeah. I also want to throw this out there.
Jesse doesn't give a shit.
A little over a month after Tom Brady announced his retirement last year, the football was put up for auction. It sold for $500,000, $518,000.
And you're telling me you'd give back the baseball?
and less than 24 hours later, after the auction price was set and sold, he announced he was coming back.
Oof.
The two people who are most hurt by that are A, the guy that bought the ball, and B, I think clearly his not ex-wife yet, but they are in big, like she's out in magazines. I'm reading stuff like on the Virgin Radio side going like, we're talking about this. She's like, listen, I'm really pissed at him. He told me he was quitting. I put my career aside. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. That's when you got to, it's crazy.
Who bought the ball?
The guy, so here's the thing with those things. Sometimes
Tommy Rigatoni. No.
Is it a private sale or whatever?
It's usually a private sale because they don't, you know what I mean? Like that. Then it's like,
500,000.
I know who that person is. So then I Google where their house is and then I go steal the ball. Right? Like it's you know what's crazy you guys should watch if you haven't already is the Bling Ring documentary.
Yo, I did.
Isn't that nuts?
That's nuts. Netflix is so good at being like, here's a bunch of bad people.
Who don't take ownership of anything that they do. She blames the culture for her robbing Paris Hilton's house.
Dude, it's Adam. Go ahead.
No, okay, so we need to wrap the show.
Do the Coles notes.
Okay, yeah, we do have to wrap the show. But Coles notes, bunch of kids literally just walked up to celebrities' front doors, and the celebrities were so confident that no one was going to steal shit that they left them open.
Oh, wow.
And they went in several times, and they would just take small things here and there, or whatever, and then they'd wear them, and then like wear like a Rolex or whatever, post about it on the internet. One of the guys was like, "I took Paris Hilton's cocaine. It's the best cocaine I've ever had." And he's like, "It's like you just see him. He's like, it was the craziest shit I've ever had." And then what's so crazy is that they have to reach out to Paris Hilton, and her rep's like denying it, like, "Oh yeah, no, that Paris Hilton has never had cocaine in her house." Okay. But it's a crazy thing, and you need to get
Jesse with the music.
I'm hitting the button.
You cannot play me off like this.
I didn't have Paris Hilton's cocaine on my bingo card today.
All I'm telling you is you gotta watch it. It's crazy.
Done.
And then one of the kids is like, you know what? It's our celebrity obsessed culture. That's why I rob these celebrities. Watch it.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.